East Kent Schools Together's first art competition, Our Shared Isolation. I am Esther Miles, the artist in residence for East Kent Schools Together. I'm so excited to kick off this project, especially now that we're back in lockdown. Projects that bring people together creatively are what East Kent Schools Together and I are all about. So it's such a joy for me to lead on this, even though it is through your screens. We have so many exciting elements to this project, all of which will be revealed shortly. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Dr Jody Walshe. She will be taking us through some activities in this session to get us thinking about our experiences during these periods of isolation. Jody is an educational psychologist with lots of experience of working with young people in this way. She was hoping to do a live session with you, but as we find ourselves isolating again, we are so lucky to have an on-demand session with her.
Thank you so much, Esther, for that warm welcome. Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me. I'm Jody Walshe, and it's a real pleasure to be working with you for this session. Welcome to the East Kent Schools Together, Our Shared Isolation art collaboration with artist in residence Esther Miles. As Esther kindly said at the start, I'd hoped to do this session live for us to discuss all together how the pandemic has impacted us. Since that has not been possible, we're using this video format to explore some activities. I'll be taking you through some different reflective activities that will get you thinking and give you a structure that you can then use by yourselves to carry out further. The purpose of these activities is to get you really thinking about how you stay connected during these lockdowns, what's become important to you, how you feel, how you've coped. We would also be thinking together about what you've learned about yourselves, what new things you've done, and what you miss. This is your time and these activities are personal and they're for you. This session is your chance to follow these activities to help you think through some of what you've experienced since March 2020. The pandemic has been a collective experience on a global scale and everyone's lives have been impacted. Some experiences of the pandemic have been shared by many, and it's really important to remember that you're not alone. However, the impact has been far more complicated and far more varied, and every individual's life has been impacted differently. One of the things that we'll be doing in the sessions is to think through in more depth what this has meant to you. In the next 15 minutes or so, I'm going to take you through a range of activities to help you to think through and explore some of the important themes around what lockdown has meant for you and what connection means to you. The activities will involve writing at various points, so if you don't already have a pen and paper, then pause this now and go and grab some. Before we start, I want to be really clear that this is a case of activities where the more you put in, the more you'll get out. They don't require any specialist knowledge, skills or equipment, but they do require an open mind. I'm going to be asking lots of questions as part of prompting you. Some of the questions I ask will be strange and unusual, and as a psychologist, I'm really used to that being part of my job. Strange and unusual questions can help us to think about things in new and different ways and be extremely useful. You'll notice as we go through that certain activities and certain questions, they will just resonate with you more. That's the whole point of what we're doing, and that's exactly what we'd expect from a session like this. What you'll find is a theme, an activity, a question that will suddenly feel like it really hits home for you. When that happens, run with it. Take more time on that activity, give it that bit more thought. What I'm really saying is to give it a go. Psychology research tells us that it can be really helpful to use structured activities like this to help think through complex experiences. I've used activities like this with lots of young people and a range of adults as well, and they've found them to be sort of helpful and interesting, and I really hope that you feel the same. I do wish that our sessions were in person and live so that we could have some discussion, but one of the big positives of a video format like this is that it does allow you to personalise the experience. Take your time, pause, listen back, take more time on the activity that sparks your interest. Right, we're going to start off with some quick fire inspiration. You'll see I've got 4 words here in the middle of the screen. Lockdown, our shared isolation. Now I know these are all words we're really familiar with already, but now we're going to think about them in a bit more depth. And to start off with, what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to give you a 1-minute timer on the next slide and ask you to come up with as many words as you can that are prompted by these 4 words you see on the screen. You might want to make a mind map with these 4 words in the middle of your page and lines coming off, or you might want to just make a really quick list It's up to you. The purpose is 1 minute and as many words as you can. The focus here is speed. And one of the reasons we're doing this activity is because research tells us that sometimes activities like this can be really great for sparking creativity. So now once you've got your pen and pencil, we're going to get started. Right, thank you for getting into the spirit of the activities with that first one. How did you find doing that? It can feel really strange to start off with, and then sometimes you can feel like you reach a bit of a flow where suddenly one word sparks lots of other words and you start to think about the connections. What you may well have experienced is feeling stuck or your mind going blank, and that's one of the feelings I wanted you to get familiar with at the start of these activities. Any kind of creative or reflective activity involves us feeling stuck and feeling like our mind has gone blank at points, and that's why it's a really helpful thing for us to start practicing and noticing. Have a look at your mind map, have a look at your list. Have you written any words there that surprise you? As you look at your list again or your mind map, are there any words there you think that might be the same as somebody else has written? From those 4 key words that we were looking at, did you pick any particular ones to focus on? Lockdown, shared, or isolation? What we're going to do now is I'm going to talk you through some of the possible words that might have come up on your mind map or your list. As I talk through some of the different words that may have come up, you might want to add more. There are no right answers or wrong answers. What I want you to look out for, what I want you to notice, is what words stick out to you. Which are the words that feel important and feel relevant to your life? You might notice that some words would have felt really important to you in March or April of 2020, but don't feel relevant now. Or some that wouldn't have resonated with you a few months ago, but feel really important to you now. There are no right or wrong answers, as I've said. So one of the things you might have included is new words or words that have new meanings. COVID, corona, social distancing, PPE, lockdown, bubble, tier 4, Zoom, mute, unmute. So many words that we are really familiar with now and used to using that we wouldn't have before, or that we use in different ways. Did you have any words on your list about isolation? Did you think about phrases like isolating and self-isolating? Were you thinking about the interactions that you might miss with important people in your life, with friends, with family? I've heard some really interesting discussions about the word isolation, which I'd like you to have a think about while I'm talking. Some people think the phrase social isolation and socially isolating is really unhelpful, and that actually a better phrase might be physical isolation, because it gives a better idea of being physically apart but socially connected. What do you think? Did you have any words about connection? Did you put the names of people you connect with, friends, family, people in your community? Did you write about how you're connected, the technology you use, the resources you use? Was it about talking, about school, about being online, about WhatsApp, Instagram, gaming, phone? Did you think about other ways you're connected? Shared experiences, possibly both watching the same clips, TV programs, sharing photos of previous experiences that you've had together. Did you think about how connection might make you feel, might make others feel? Connection is complicated and it's really interesting. We've all found that there's our way of coping with lockdown, and then there's the people that we are connected to and how those people, our network, feel as well, and that has a huge impact on us. The people we live with, the people we spend time with, how they have been impacted really also resonates with our lives. Did you have any words there about what you can no longer do, about what you miss? Was it about people, places, activities, clubs, groups? Did you write anything about words that are linking to what you can do, things that you are doing? Did you have words telling us about what you enjoy? It's important to think about how complex this shared isolation has been for all of us. People have had very different experiences, some really good, some very sad, and some really difficult and complicated, and everything in between. Did you have any words in thinking about things that you've learned? Those might be things about yourself in the last year, things that you can do now that you couldn't do a year ago. How have you coped with things? You thought about how you coped compared to how you might have surprised yourself compared to how you might have thought you would have coped. What have you learned about your personal qualities over the last year or so? And finally, did you have any words sort of linked to the feelings that you've experienced about this time? Feelings are complex. We can feel happy and secure that we're with people are important to us, but we can also feel anxious about the future. We can feel relieved that we're okay and healthy, but also guilty that others we know are struggling. We can feel unsure about what's coming next, but also numb. We can find it hard to focus and not be sure why. We can enjoy things we didn't used to and be daunted by things that used to be every day. One of the important things you might have noticed as you wrote about feelings is that we have more than one at the same time. They can vary, they can fluctuate, and they can change. Take a final look at your list of words or your mind map that you've created. Grab a pen or pencil and circle or underline or highlight the 5 most important words to you. You might have started doing it while I was talking. So have a look through. What are the 5 words that really stand out to you? Why did you pick those? Why are those 5 the ones that speak to you most? If you want to extend this activity further, you might want to add colour. You might want to underline more important words. You might want to link them together. You might want to redraw your mind map or rewrite your list with images. They might be sketched, they might be drawn. You might source things online or use collage. You might just want to pick those 5 important words and write those out as prompts for you to think about. Would you have picked the same 5 words back in March? Would you have picked the same 5 words in the summer holidays? So next, we're thinking about an object. Now we've had a chance to think about lockdown, we're going to develop this a bit further. I'm going to ask you to think about an object. This is an object that represents this period of time for you. Don't worry, one object doesn't have to hold all of the different meanings about this whole experience that we've had over the last year or so. But I want you to have a think about one thing that might represent some of what you've been thinking about and talking about. Has something popped into your head already? Are you still thinking? Don't worry if your brain is pinballing between a couple of different ideas at the moment. And as I said, it doesn't have to represent absolutely everything. I'm hoping you might have an idea in your head by now. If you're not totally sure, pause this, but only give yourself about 20 seconds and then just run with it. Right, I'm going to give you a choice. Some of you might have thought of an object that's here, that's nearby, that you either have by you right now or that you could go and grab quickly. If that's the case, pause this and go and grab it so you can have it with you, as long as it's not being used by someone else. If not, because the object is too big, too far away, not easy to get, don't worry, but write down that word, or you might want to have a sketch of it or something else as a bit of a prompt as we move on to think about the activity. Right, now you've picked your object, you should have it either in front of you, you might have written down the word for what it is, you might have done a quick sketch or have an image that you've searched online to have with you so that you're looking at it, but this is your prompt. And now I'm going to take you through some questions. We're going to think about why you picked this object. As I talk you through these questions, you might want to jot down some answers, it might just be keywords, it might be longer. This is one of these activities that you're definitely going to need to come back and spend a bit more time on, because I'm going to talk through the questions now, but it will really benefit if you take a bit more time to think about each one. So make a note to revisit this slide. The first question I've got on here is, why did you pick this object? You had many, many choices. Was this the first one you came up with? Did you have another one come into your mind first. Do you regret picking this object? Is there another one you wish you'd chosen? Why? Did this immediately come into your mind, or did you cycle through a couple of other ideas before settling on this one? The next question I'm posing to you is, how does this object relate to the last year? What has it meant to you? Is it something new? Is it something you've had the whole time? The third question I'm asking you to take some time to think about is, what are some of the positives of the object that you've picked? Does it help you to feel connected? Do you enjoy using it? Is it something familiar, something reassuring? The fourth question is, how does this object make you feel? You'd have had a word or two pop into your head. It's a confusing question, but how does this object make you feel? Reassured? Does it combat boredom? What's the purpose of the object? And if you think about how it makes you feel, why does it make you feel that way? Our next question, is this object important to you now? Why? Why is this an important object to you now? And the final question, was this object important to you before the pandemic started? Have you had it the whole time? Has its meaning or its purpose changed? Would this have been important to you in February 2020? As I've said, to extend and develop this activity more, after the session finishes, I'd really suggest drawing, having a photo of the object, sitting with this slide for a few minutes and working through the questions. As I've said, it's not about doing every question in detail. It's about picking the 2 or 3 questions that I've brought up here that really resonate with you and spending a bit of time thinking about those. Okay, we've got another quick fire for you now. Pens or pencils at the ready. I'm going to give you a sentence and I want you to write down your answer very quickly, as soon as it comes into your head. You're getting a few seconds. Okay, you ready? If lockdown was a colour, what would it be? First thing that's popped into your head, write that down, get it down on a page immediately. As soon as you've got that colour written down, tell me why. Why did you pick that colour? The first thing in your head will be, I don't know. But go past I don't know. Why might you have picked blue over green or red over purple? Did it make you think of uniforms worn by health workers? Did it make you think of the blanket that you like to sit under on the sofa? Why did you pick that colour? There will have been a reason. Give it a try. Why did you pick that colour? Brilliant. And we're going to do one more. Pens at the ready. If lockdown was a type of weather, what would it be? Right, pen, pencil on the page, get it down. What's your answer? What type of weather would it be? I'll give you one more second to write down your answer. And now I think you know what I'm going to ask. Why? Why did you choose that kind of weather? Why not another type? Is it the weather you're looking at right now? Is it about whether that's what's it represented to you? So if lockdown was weather, what would it be and why? Right, okay, we are on to our final activity, and it's a really useful and really interesting one that absolutely is going to benefit from the time, the thought and the attention you give it. So what I'm going to be doing in the next 2 slides is talking you through the activity and setting it up, but it's one you're going to be doing in your own time to make sure that you give it time and attention to get the most out of it. In our final activity, we're going to be thinking about the past, the present, and your hopes for the future. In your packs, as part of the art collaboration, you will have blank postcards that look like the ones we're looking at on the screen. These would be really good for you to use on your ideas boards to start thinking about how isolation has affected you and what's been important in keeping you connected and thinking about the future. What you're going to be doing is writing to yourself. You're writing a postcard to yourself in the past. So you, from 2021, is looking back and reaching out to you in February 2020, about a year ago. It's going to feel a bit unusual, it's going to feel a bit strange, but the activities we've done up to now completely set you up for being able to think back and write something about your experience over the last year. You're going to, first of all, think about yourself from 2020. Who were you in February 2020? What year were you in? What were you doing? Who were you thinking about? What were you thinking about? Remembering that this is a time when we probably had no idea what the next year was going to look like or what it would bring. As you write this postcard, you can't change anything, even if you wish you could. But you can tell yourself what the year ahead is going to hold. You can tell yourself what's going to help you, what's going to support you, what's going to ensure you feel connected. You can look back to yourself a year younger and tell yourself what's going to be okay, what's going to help you to get through a really strange, difficult and unprecedented time. You can tell yourself the things that you'll achieve over the next year, the personal qualities that you didn't know you had, that you've found over the last year. You can tell yourself things that might completely surprise you, that the February 2020 you, their mind would be blown to know. You can talk about what you're doing now, what you're enjoying now, and what you've achieved. So I've got 5 key questions here to prompt you, and I'm going to talk through each one, but obviously, as I've said, this is one to revisit, to put the time into. So that first question, what do you want to tell yourself? Thinking about that person from February 2020, you might feel very similar to them. You might feel quite different in some ways. You've certainly seen things they haven't, experienced things they haven't. What do you want to tell them about you from now? The next question, what's the next year or so going to be like? What do you want them to know about what's coming up this year? That third question, what's going to help you? What would yourself from a year ago want to know that would be useful? What should they be doing more of? Should they be doing more reaching out, more connecting? Should they give it a go, something unusual, something different that they didn't used to do? Will they enjoy things a year on that they never thought they would have enjoyed? The fourth question, what's going to keep you connected? What advice would you give yourself from a year ago about keeping connected at a time when lots of the normal ways that we feel connected have been cut off or changed? And this last question is a really important one. What are you looking forward to now? Where are you seeing things going in the future? What are the things that you have hope about? So lastly, I wanted to thank you all. I know that I'm asking unusual and strange things of you, and there'll be points in this with you thinking, she's asking why again? And I don't know the answer, but it's all about giving it a go and running with those questions and activities that have really resonated with you. It's been a genuine pleasure to spend this time with you, and I hope that you found it helpful. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you so much, Dr Jody Walshe. That's given me so much to think about. The next video up will be a rundown of some of the elements in this project, as well as the all-important competition requirements. I'll see you then. Thanks everyone.